how's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to a Death Stranding analysis. This video is a follow-up to the 101st Airborne Division's 506th Infantry Regiment analysis that I published a couple days ago, which I highly recommend you check out before we begin. For those who've already done that, you may recall that I detailed reasons for why Death Stranding's second trailer might take place somewhere in Europe. More specifically, in one of the following three locations: Normandy, France, Netherlands, or Bastogne, Belgium. My reasoning for this was that Death Stranding's second trailer features undead 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment soldiers who fought in those locations during World War II, during the Normandy campaign in Normandy, Operation Market Garden in Netherlands, and the Battle of the Bulge in Bastogne, Belgium. So the theory is that Matt's character, or whatever supernatural forces are at play here, went to one of those former battlefields, resurrected fallen 506th soldiers, and created a makeshift army out of the World War II American forces. I also noted how during the Normandy campaign and the Battle of the Bulge, the American army used the exact models of armored vehicles and aircrafts seen in Death Stranding's second trailer: the M10 tank destroyer and the P-47 Thunderbolt fighter. Unfortunately, even with all my research and analysis, I was unable to narrow down which one of the three settings that I listed was the most likely candidate. All I could deduce with confidence was that the trailer does take place somewhere in Europe, as we do hear some faint and muddled German dialogue in the background at one point in the trailer. Now, everything changed when I got this tweet from Twitter user @KirkAgonista. You may recall that one of the topics that I discussed in my last video were these obelisk-shaped electrical poles, which I described to be very alien in nature and unlike anything we've ever seen in our real world, driving me to speculate that this could be further indication that Death Stranding does take place in some kind of alternate version of our real world. Well, turns out I was wrong about the obelisk electrical poles being an otherworldly object. As Twitter user KirkAgonista pointed out to me, it turns out that these obelisk-shaped electrical poles could be found in France throughout World War II. Alongside the tip, Kirk also provided a link to this eBay listing that is selling a 1/35th sized replica model of these French World War II electrical poles, seemingly for the purposes of creating dioramas like the one shown in this photo. And if we compare this model to the obelisk structure shown in the trailer, you will see that they match almost perfectly. Upon further research, I even managed to find real-life photos taken in France during World War II where it's possible to spot these exact same obelisk-shaped electrical poles. Even more compelling is that all of these photos were taken throughout various regions of Normandy, one of the locations that I theorized to be the setting of Death Stranding's second trailer. For example, this photo here was taken in Saint Lambert, a commune residing in the Calvados department in the Normandy region. I also found a few photos from Dieppe, a continental community in the Seine Maritime department of Normandy. So with that in mind, I think you know where I'm going with this. In light of this new information, I can finally say with confidence that based on all the evidence, it looks like it might be possible to narrow down the setting of Death Stranding's second trailer to somewhere in Normandy, France. The 506 soldiers, the M10 tank destroyers, and the P-47 Thunderbolt fighters by themselves were not enough to paint a full picture. But once you add the obelisk-shaped French electrical poles from World War II into the picture, the prospect of a Normandy setting suddenly becomes much more compelling. As for what this could all mean for Death Stranding's story, well, that's just the question, isn't it? Hard to say anything concrete with what little we know right now, but for now, I will say this. It is my belief that the ones responsible for this invasion are German, or at the very least, somehow related to Germany. Going off of the World War II theme of the trailer, not only does this fit with how Germany had occupied Normandy during World War II in a similar manner to what's shown here, it could also explain the presence of the German dialogue in the background, which, if you translate, sounds like it could be some kind of warning or propaganda. I can't think of any reason for why we would hear this kind of German dialogue amidst a devastated Normandy, France, if the Germans weren't somehow involved in this invasion. There's also the fact that the trailer shows the mobilization of what can best be described as desecrated and undead American forces being mobilized, a desecration that I believe only an adversarial force would shamelessly conceive, and seeing as how Death Stranding's second trailer features so many references to World War II, I think it's possible that Kojima might have Germany reprise an antagonistic role, akin to the one that they played during our real-world World War II. It almost feels like we're witnessing a mirror image of the real Normandy campaign. Instead of seeing live American forces fighting for the Allies in an attempt to free Normandy, France from German occupation, it's almost as if we're seeing desecrated American forces and other American World War II relics being puppeteered by the Axis to further the occupation of Normandy, France. It's as if American forces are being forced to undo the very same efforts that they fought and sacrificed so much for during the Normandy campaign. If Germany is indeed somehow behind this, it feels like a very shameless fuck you in what could be a hateful act of vengeance from some kind of, I don't know, neo-Nazi-like entity maybe? Now, keep in mind that these are all just thoughts and vibes that I'm getting. I honestly have no concrete way to tie any of this into Death Stranding's narrative since we know so little about the game. But this idea of events transpiring opposite to how they occurred in our real world is not a foreign one when you consider how both Death Stranding trailers hint at the concept of mirror worlds possibly coming into play. To further corroborate my theory of Germany being involved, there is the fact that the actor who plays the main antagonist, Mads Mikkelsen, is European, with a very clear European accent, I might add, and one of the languages that he speaks is in fact German. So perhaps it's worth considering that we might see Mads Mikkelsen flex his multilingual muscles and play an antagonistic German character in Death Stranding. At least we know that his character does have something to do with this invasion, going by the fact that he's literally puppeteering 4 American 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment soldiers through these black umbilical cord strands. And if you add on top of that the fact that Mads is a European actor who might be playing a European character who is possessing 4 American troops, perhaps this further suggests that a European force, possibly Germany, is in fact exerting their dominion over these resurrected, unearthed, desecrated American forces. Now, it is worth pointing out that Matt's character is wearing American modern tactical gear, but again we might be looking at another example of how American efforts from World War II are being desecrated by using their own forces, their own weapons, equipment, and tools to undo their past efforts in a very disrespectful, assertive, and vengeful show of dominion. Maybe it's about sending a message. I don't know, man, that's just one version of the shit that's racing through my head right now. I think I'll stop here and call it quits while I'm ahead of this analysis. My crazy theories and speculation aside, the big takeaway from this video is that the obelisk-shaped electrical poles have been identified to be real-life French structures that could be found throughout various regions of Normandy during World War II. In other words, the setting of Death Stranding's second trailer could be none other than Normandy, France. This raises a lot of interesting questions, thoughts, theories, speculation, and implications. And I've already shared my 2 cents, so now I'd love to hear what you have to say about all this. Do you think we are indeed looking at a pseudo-historical Normandy, France in this trailer? What do you think about the possibility of Germany being related to this invasion and calamity? Theorize and speculate away in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things Death Stranding, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.